Hi, everyone. This is Michele Graglia.
This is Marianne Hogan.
Hi, I'm Adrian McDonald.
I'm Katie Asmith.
Hi, this is Anthony Gasals.
Hi, my name is Meg Morgan.
Hey, it's Jordan Troth.
This is John Ray.
This is Ryan Van Duzer, and you are listening to the Gotta Run Racing Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Gotta Run Podcast.
I'm Jody.
And I'm her husband, Norm. Otherwise known as, what's his name?
No, come on now.
If you're new to the show, welcome.
Yeah, I think we do have some new listeners after our Sulphur Springs episode.
That's right. Sulphur Springs, our last podcast, did very well in the download section.
So thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, for sharing.
We hope you enjoyed it. Got another good one today, but before we get to that.
Yeah, what is happening in the world of Gotta Run Racing.
You and I are heading to Slovenia.
Yeah, when you say it, you have to back up.
Back up. For some reason, I have to say Slovenia like that. Slovenia!
Well, we've never been there before, so we can't wait to dive into those mountains.
Yeah, we're going to be running 60K at the Ultra Trail of Vipava Valley on April 27th.
Wish us luck.
We're going to need it because, of course, I had a calf injury just before the race. But I'm on the mend, and we got a couple more long runs to get in, and we'll be there before you know it.
All right. So, who is on the podcast today?
Well. We are welcoming back to the podcast Ihor Verys. And I'm sure everyone knows who that is by now because he's a household name, especially after Barkley Marathons. So we're very excited to be speaking today to the first Canadian-Ukrainian finisher and winner of the 2024 Barkley Marathons. But first, if you haven't listened to our first episode with Ihor, hit pause, go back to episode 53, where we chat about his win at Fat Dog and his origin story in running. And then come on back. Ihor's been very busy since we last spoke to him, and we're going to touch on a couple of his other triumphs in addition to Barkley. Secondly, we're going to assume that you're familiar with the Barkley Marathon and its rules. We highly recommend you check out the Netflix doc about the race or hit up YouTube. And we know you're going to be down a rabbit hole for a good hour or so, but it's a good rabbit. Basically, the race takes place in Frozen Head State Park in Tennessee. It's roughly 100 miles. It takes 5 loops. You have 60 hours to complete it. And the elevation gain is similar to climbing Mount Everest twice. No course markers, no pacers, and you have to collect pages of hidden books along the way.
I just like how it started, the history of it. So what's the brief history of it?
Well, it was inspired by the escape of James Earl Ray, who was the assassin of Martin Luther King Jr. Again, check out YouTube. You'll get the full story and history on the race and about that prison escape.
But what happened was that when he escaped, he tried to run in the forest around the prison. And I think in 50 hours or so, he only got 12 kilometers. So Laz said, well, shit, I could probably do 100 miles in that time. And thus the Barkley's born.
There we go. And this year's Barkley was a triumph for many reasons. There were 5 finishers in total, including the first woman, Jasmin Paris. Ihor was the first finisher in 58 hours, 44 minutes. We also had Jared Campbell, who finished for the 4th time, and John Kelly for the 3rd, and Greg Hamilton for the first time. So without further ado, here's Ihor.
Coming up.
How are you doing, guys?
We're great. How are you?
Not too bad. Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks for having me on your podcast again. It's been a few months, probably a year or so.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah,
it has, and thank you for joining us again because we know you've done a million interviews since Barkley, and you must be exhausted. But I hope you're not tired of talking about it.
No, I love chatting with you. I mean, I love talking ultra. It's just as long as I guess sometimes I get repetitive a bit, but here and there, different questions will pop up, and I'm pretty sure you'll bring up something new that I wasn't asked before, and can go from there. So,
well, that's our goal today, is to ask you some things that maybe you haven't been asked yet. So hopefully we did it.
We're not going to talk Barkley at all.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about? Let's talk about something different.
All right. Well, let's get into it.
Well, welcome back, Ihor. big congrats since the last time we chatted, which was about a year and a half ago when you finished or won Fat Dog.
Right. And that was Fat Dog. One of the first, well, I guess it was second or third 100-miler. Yeah, I mean, lots happened ever since Fat Dog, I should say.
You could say that again.
Since Fat Dog, you completed Big's Backyard, coming in second with quotes, because basically on your ultra sign up, it shows you with a DNF, which there's something wrong about that.
I know. You know, it's funny because in previous years, there was no DNF. They just put the distance that they did, over those hours.
Oh, that's right.
So I was hoping that they would put like my distance there, but they changed the rules and everyone else is DNF. And first place, only Harvey gets like a first place in the official record and ultra sign up. So I get my first DNF there, and it's funny because you end up running so long and you still DNF, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of a bit of, I don't know how to look at that, but that's the craziness of lads, I guess. Maybe he came up with that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's fine. DNF is DNF. At the end of the day, that's what it is, and I'm proud of it. So, still probably one of the best records on my resume. So
there you go. There you go.
Proud DNF. And you also won Hurt 100 this year.
That's fresh-ish, I guess. Yeah, that was a couple months ago. Yeah, that came up sort of out of nowhere. I had different plans, but then adjusted, and I applied last year for Hurt, or 2 years ago, didn't get in and got in time. So it's an iconic race and really wanted to be there and give it a shot. And yeah, it was a good one. Yeah, it was a good training run for Barkley, as many people say, even though it is a tough race. It is hard. Hurt was definitely one of the hardest 100-milers I've done.
Let's go back to Biggs. Starting lap 1, when you have no idea how long this race is going to last. And did you ever have any feelings of, man, I just want this to stop now. I don't know if I can keep going. Or were you more determined because you're seeing your competitors step up just as much as you were?
Yeah, eventually I got those thoughts after 4 days and 4 nights, especially after the fourth night when I was a little bit sleep deprived, and well, a lot of it, not a little bit, a lot of sleep deprived. And so I was a little bit confused, and I would forget where to go and what I'm doing. And my crew, Marina, would have to remind me all the time what I'm doing, why I'm here. Yeah. And that point I was like, okay, well, I'm not having too much fun at this point. So I feel like I want to stop, but my crew, that's where the experience of the crew would come to play, because she would keep pushing me and sending for another loop and trick me into like, hey, you know what? I'm going to have this food for you next loop. So get out, go one more loop, just do one more for me. And I would do it one. And I was like, okay, Marina, I did one more loop for you. I'm done. And she's like, no, let's do another one. I did have those thoughts eventually at the end, but first 4 days, no, nothing at all. I mean, I was sleepy, obviously exhausted. You're tired, everything's hurting, but having this camaraderie and having all these great runners from all over the world. And I knew that I was representing Canada, just like other 2 runners, Amanda and Eric. So I knew that we got entire nation behind us, and I can't just quit because I feel tired or something. So it's more than just an individual race. You're bearing the flag of your country here. So higher responsibility. And I knew that I can push harder and further than ever. And eventually that's what happened. But yeah, eventually I got into that realm where I've never been before, where you're so sleep deprived and you've covered this many miles, and it was weird to be in that headspace where I was so confused that I couldn't understand what I was doing or where I was going. And sometimes I would ask Marina, are we on a day or a night course? Because I just forget and why we are running and this and that. So it wasn't that fun at the end. But until that point, it was pretty enjoyable. Physically, I felt great. Even at the very end, other than my foot, I couldn't feel really my foot at the end because my feet were so swollen. I had to size up 2 sizes So I wear like 12 and a half. I ended up wearing 14, and that was even size 14 was kind of small at the end. And but lucky that I didn't bring any big shoes. There was a fella from Australia who stepped in, and he offered his shoes that happened to be size 14, and they kind of worked well for me. So I'm thankful to Australian team, and because they saved the show. I ran in that shoe for 24 hours, and
wow.
Yeah, it's still, I feel like it was a little bit late. So again, this is experience, and in future, I'll know that, okay, I need to bring bigger shoes if I end up going that far. So it was kind of a late change. I should have switched a bit earlier. But anyways, yeah, so my foot was so painful, and then eventually it was numb. And I was kind of worried for my long-term health. I when I started touching my foot, it felt like it's gone. Like there's nothing there.
Ooh.
So it was kind of scary. And I had a trip to Patagonia planned months after, and I really wanted to go, and I wanted to keep my foot, So I guess that, coupled with mental deliriousness and all that sleep deprivation, I made the choice to stop. And like I couldn't even, at some point I couldn't remember how far I went. But then when it clicked, I'm like, oh, okay, I did over 100 hours. Okay, well, I guess that's not bad. We'll take it. And
that's not bad.
Yeah, it's quite an adventure. It's something every time I'm asked about backyard format, always recommended to literally everyone. Great format. Even if you want to make it your first ultra, attempt it, go for it. But I don't recommend running 5 days. It's not healthy at all.
I can imagine.
Well, you did end up running 715 kilometers or something like that, and I think I heard you say before Big's Backyard that you didn't think that the world record would have been broken, and then yet there's 3 of you still standing at the line, all broken the record.
Yeah.
So what was your thoughts going through your mind at that moment when all 3 of you had just broken the record?
Yeah, we had those pre-race interviews with the movie director. By the way, the movie is coming out at the end of April.
Awesome.
I think. Yeah. So we all had those pre-interviews, which are available on YouTube. And he was asking us, do you think the record is going to be broken? So I watched all the interviews, other favorites. Phil Gore, that was the current, at that point, it was a world record holder, Harvey's interview. And they all said, no, it's not going to get broken. Just because the course is so hard. There's a lot of elevation gain during the day, and it's technical. So we all thought we would go into 90s, but not over 102, which was the world record at that point. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I was the first one to actually cross the line on hour 103. So I remember the wife of Phil Gore. So Phil Gore stopped after 100 hours. Mm-hmm. He was resting there in the chair at the start line. So I crossed a loop 103. So I broke the world record. So I'm the first one. But so as I'm lining up for the next one, his wife came up to me because he couldn't walk anymore. So she came up to me and she was like, hey, congratulations on getting the world record. And I'm like looking at her, I'm like, world record? Because I was so out of it. I didn't even know that I'm already on that hour. She was like, well, you just broke the world record. You're a new world record holder at the moment. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. It was just, she was a bit tired too, but I'm like completely out of it. I didn't even know that was a world record already. And I'm pretty sure Marina told me that multiple times, but it's just nothing is working here anymore. Coming in here and getting out here right away, pretty much. So
you probably didn't even know your own name at that point.
Yeah, you know what? If they asked me, I might have had troubles recalling it. Yeah, but she told us, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that clicked. And then we ran 1 more hour, 3 of us, with Bartosz from Poland, Harvey. And we were like, oh, wow, we broke the world record. And then that's where Bartosz said, yeah, I'm going to run this loop and I'm done. I'm not interested in going any further. And I was like, well, let's see what happens. Maybe we can go a little bit further. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And it took a few minutes to sink in. And it's pretty cool to see not only, say, 3 of us breaking the world record, but also seeing 6 athletes clocking 100 plus. Mm-hmm. And then there was like 21 or so athletes doing 72 hours. And then there's multiple athletes doing 96. And yeah, I think 48 people or something like that. No, pretty much all of us did 24 hours. And then a few people dropped after 48 hours. It's just insane seeing so many athletes making 2 days, 48 hours look so casual.
Yes.
You don't see that anywhere you go, right? Like anywhere in Canada or States. Well, 48 hours, it's a big deal. You will definitely win the race.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you do 48 hours, like in Canada, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And here you see entire field is still standing. They're bananas. You think like, oh gosh, this thing is going to go forever. So pretty much after 72 hours, when I think there was like 20 something people still standing, I had that thought that, okay, maybe we will actually break the world record. So at that point, I wasn't so sure that we won't. And I guess that's what happened. It's funny because Laz thought, he did say that the world record is going to fall, which is interesting because he knows his course. It's a brutal course. But the ones that we have in Canada are very similar. So I found it trained us, so me, Amanda, and Eric, for especially the day course. The night course was fairly easy because it's on the road. So
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So will you go again, Ihor?
to Bigs?
Yeah.
Well, I think I will. As I was running night 2, I remember I was falling asleep a bit, and I told myself I'll never do it again. This is absolute madness. But then I thought about it, that I usually get those thoughts during every single ultra. Somewhere halfway through, you're like, oh, why didn't you sign up for 50 miler, something like that. And it's so kind of similar thoughts creep in during backyard too. But then by the end, ultra runners, we have a very short memory. We forget how painful and how hard our sport is, and we forget about all the suffering. And then we do it again. We make the same mistake. But yeah, it's not only the race or format itself, just the community. And it was such an impressive feeling just to see everyone come together. So as people would start, say, dropping out, they wouldn't leave, or their crews wouldn't leave. They would remain there. And so many athletes from all over the world would come together, help me, help my crew, Marina. They would run to the town to buy whatever I was missing, because I wasn't planning on going 5 days. I said, Marina, 3 days would be probably cool, And so we bought stuff for 3 days. But then I started running out of food, of liquids, so people started going to the town for us, and they wouldn't even take our money, buy everything for us, they just wanted to see this. They want witness to keep going, and they just wanted us to destroy ourselves, I guess.
How do you mentally prepare for a race that could never end?
Yeah, it's a good question, Norma. It's not, that's the thing. Well, first of all, it has this big title like World Championship, individual championship. So you can be intimidated by that, because I've never been to the World Championship. To me, it sounds like Olympics, something crazy. So if you think and dwell on it all the time, you're going to stress, and stress is not good for training, for anything. So I try to shift my focus and think about it as if I'm just going to do some local 10K or 20K race. Forget that it's individual world championship, forget that we're, on the world arena. My trick, or the way I approach this format, is that I'm just staying present and focused on one loop at a time. I wouldn't think even about the next loop, just this one particular loop. And sometimes Marina would tell me, hey, a couple more loops and you'll be at like 72 hours. I'm like, hey, Marina, forget about it. Let's focus on just this particular loop.
Yeah.
We're going to do this loop. And if we can finish it, we'll think about next one. And when you're having that approach, eventually, before you know it, you got 100 hours. I wasn't going into this race thinking about 100 hours. Just as I said, I was thinking, if we can get maybe 3 days, that would be amazing. A new national record. But then I felt great. I was like, okay, well, let's just keep going. Let's focus on this one loop, the next loop. And yeah.
I remember years ago, there was 2 guys left in the World Championship backyard. And one had to stop because he had a plane to catch. They were running for 4 days, and he didn't think that it would last that long. So he had to stop because he had a plane to catch. And the other guy said, well, I don't want to win it because you have to go. So they both stopped.
That's funny. I booked. I actually don't like to fly back the day after because it's really kind of hard. Your legs hurt. So you want to at least spend one more day there. So we kind of booked till Friday and it ended Wednesday, actually. So it kind of left that buffer for one more day. If maybe future years. So we'll see people going beyond it, which I think it will happen. We'll see people going through fifth night and getting into 6 day. I think 120 hours is doable. Wow. And we might even see this year, not necessarily at big scores, maybe in Australia or Japan, maybe on the easier course a little bit. But I think it's very much doable, go through the 5 days and 5 nights. And so Harvey says the same. I listened to his podcast and I chatted with him after, and he was in a good headspace. And I think fifth night, getting through the fifth night is very much a matter of time. We will see it happen very soon.
That's the way to look at it.
Crazy.
Well, I would like to attempt it, because just to be around the crowd, I think, like you said, it's a lot of people there around the world, and anyone can go, right? Or do you have to be asked to go, or
not to the Worlds, right? You have to be invited.
No, like if you're based in Ontario, right? Yeah. So you got Persistence backyard,
right.
Ultra in Ontario, which is amazing race. I think Amanda is doing it every year, and you can just sign up. And I recommend this format to everyone. It's just such a social format too. You get to know everyone, and you get to start with the same people every hour, even fast people. So you get to know literally everyone. By the end, you know absolutely everything about their lives. By the end, you actually kind of start hating them by the end. 'Cause
I think, Jody, this could be your first 100.
Yeah.
There you go, Jody.
Why not?
Well, I've done 100K, but I don't know if I could do it in an hour. That's it.
15 loops, I think, right? 100K, something like that. Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right.
Just a couple questions about Hurt, because we don't want to leave Hurt out. And as you alluded to before, you did use it as some training for Barkley. But I'm wondering, what was your biggest challenge? Was it heat or those damn routes?
Yeah, good question. It's a combination, I guess, of things. So where I live, the trails here are fairly technical. It's not as bad as at Hurt. So it's not as rooty, but it is fairly rooty and rocky. The technicality of the course didn't really scare me, or I didn't feel like it was somewhat challenging. I mean, it was challenging, but I was ready for it.
Sure.
I usually train something like that. But humidity, that was the biggest thing. And it wasn't even as bad this year, but you can feel it. You can feel it the moment you land in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's hard to breathe right away, especially if you're not used to it. But so you can go certain pace, but your heart rate will be way higher than you are used to, just because of all this humidity. It's really hard to breathe, and sometimes you feel like you're choking, so it definitely slows you down. This course does slow you down big time. That coupled with the course itself, so rooty, and it's really hard to run it even downhill. It's just like, if you imagine, there's no flow. So say you can take a trail and you can flow for, like, say, a couple kilometers. There's no such a thing here at Hurt, because it's all like jumping, yipping. Every step is different.
Right.
So can't really turn your brain here, and you're always focused on the course. And I was proud of myself because I didn't fall a single time. Not a single time. Yeah, not a single time. So I was just making sure all my steps are correct. And humidity did slow me down. So I'm pretty sure I could run, say, the same course, say, here in BC faster with our weather. But again, we're all in the same conditions, so it's all good. It's just, if you have certain level of fitness, expect this course to make you slower. So you might look at the profile, look at the distance, and say elevation profile. You might think, oh, okay, well, Gary ran 1930, course record. Well, that doesn't look too bad. I feel like I might be able to do it. But then once you are there, you are in that environment, you see the trails, like, okay, well, now I understand that his course record is just mind-boggling. At that time, I don't know if anyone will ever be able to even come close to what he ran.
Right.
But great course, again, great community. I think it's 24th year that they're putting it on, and the same people show up, volunteer. It's all, there's no profit, nobody's making money on it. So it's people are really passionate about this course, this particular race. It's really nice to be a part of it. I really love the community. I would love to come back and maybe not necessarily race, but say volunteer and pay someone would be amazing. Yeah. But this race does beat you up, does beat your feet up. I ended up having a pretty bad French foot. I lost pretty much entire skin at the bottom of my feet.
Oh, yeah.
It just flaked off by the end. So, and I lost 10 of my toenails, all 10.
All of them?
All 10 of them. And it's funny. It's actually, now in retrospect, I think it was a good thing because I had nothing to lose at Barkley. So I was asked many times, like, how many toenails you lost? And like 0, because I had none to start with. And Barkley is like, it's so super steep. So going downhill, you definitely bang down on your toes. But I had nothing to lose. So I could send it off as hard as possible. So that was a good thing about her.
Herd 100 is also a looped course. Like, do you prefer loops, or would you rather do a point-to-point one day?
Yeah, point-to-point. I love it. Well, I did. Fat Dog was point-to-point. Almost all of it. There is one section there where you repeat it twice, but most of it is point-to-point.
Okay.
And I do enjoy point-to-point. Like, I'm not a fan of loop courses, but somehow I got roped into these. Loop courses are no fun. Herd is great.
So moving on to the main event, Barkley, after what you've just accomplished at Big's Backyard and Hurt, were you feeling physically ready for Barkley?
They're all pretty close together.
Yeah, they're not really that far apart when you think about the cumulative.
Yeah, so I was concerned going into Hurt. I was concerned if I would have enough time to recover from Big's, because that one, I think it's 3 months only, less than 3 months. And Big's beat me up a lot. So I needed a bit longer recovery than usual. And leading to Barkley, had no issues whatsoever, no niggles, no any pains, so physically it was feeling great. Mentally was in a good headspace, recovered mentally from all the previous traumas, racing many nights. So so definitely felt great going into Barkley.
Okay. There's 3 kind of key elements that we sort of talked about when we were deciding what we wanted to ask you about today, as far as that would be your strength or the things on your side for tackling and being successful at Barkley. So one of them, which is out of your control, is the weather. And that was on everyone's side. 2 would be, we would imagine, being that this is sort of your first big orienteering event. I know you've been practicing orienteering for a while now, but this is going to be, your biggest challenge so far. And then to team up with your other competitors, because they, especially John Kelly and Jared Campbell. And then, of course, we think your actual superpower, which is performing under sleep deprivation. So let's talk about teaming up first. And with that group of runners that you were sort of doing the same pace with, were you actively helping each other out to orienteer, especially in the first loops, to figure out where those books were?
Short answer is the veterans would be doing the most of the work. So I would just completely trust them in everything they did. So in our group, it was at the beginning, it was, Jared and John, but eventually we were a little bit ahead. So John was our team leader, where he would make most of the choices. And very, very occasionally, like I would be behind and checking my compass to make sure okay, we're doing it right. We're moving in the same direction. So I think I'm on the same page with John, but John is unique. He's very smart, and he's born and raised there. So he's very familiar with the lay of the land. So he actually rarely uses map and compass. Just he knows what's going on to an extent. We still ended up making some mistakes just because how complicated the layout of the land is, so he might think, okay, well, this bridge is where we're going, and we would end up where we shouldn't be. But to give John a credit, like he would know how to correct it at the end. So he would never be completely lost. So even if we didn't hit the spot that we were targeting, he knew where he was, and we could retrace. We would lose time, but we wouldn't be completely lost. So yeah, John was the lead orienteer, and he would rely just on his knowledge and the knowledge of the layout of the land. Yeah, and Jasmin was amazing too. I think that's her third go, and she was very familiar with park as well. She was very natural with feeling that she was like in the wrong spot or this is the right spot. So she's an exceptional navigator, and that's why she was able to navigate. Like last year, she navigated most of the course on her own.
Wow.
This year, we were in the team until later stages, I think loop 4 and 5. She was with Jared and on her own at some point as well. Yeah. And we also had Sebastian from France. So until loop 2, he was I think he's actually a professional orienteer. He's really good. So it's also natural. So for me, like I don't have that experience of navigating, right? And I'm not really natural when I'm somewhere to an extent in the woods. So I would have to rely on the map and compass. And sometimes I would have conflicting feelings that I would look at the map and I would tell myself, okay, I feel like we're going to the wrong direction, but there's no way John is going to take us somewhere wrong. So I would trust him and I wouldn't say confirm with the map. And most of the time he was right. Sometimes I felt like I could go on my own, but at the same time, why would you do that? If I could get all this experience from the veterans for the first 4 loops, and they are willing to share or they don't mind us being with them, I think that's how you beat the Barkley course, just by teaming up. And that's what Lars said this year. It was like a full frontal assault because so many runners just teamed up together and left Barkley no choice. And that's why we had so many finishers.
After you finished the first loop, thought to yourself, okay, I just finished loop 1 of Barkley. Any surprises on that first loop, thinking, I didn't expect this, or that surprised me?
No, it was as bad as I pictured it.
Hey guys, if you like what you're hearing so far, then check this out. Calling all trail runners to come on out to Mansfield, Ontario this May. The Lost Treasure Trail Race features both a 5 and 10K on the beautiful trails of the Mansfield Outdoor Center. As the story goes, the American outlaw Jesse James buried a barrel full of gold coins stolen from a train on his relative's property somewhere in the hills of Mulmer. You'll earn your very own coin medal when you cross the finish line. Registration is now open. For more info, go to GottaRunRacing.com. Now back to Jody and Norm.
It sometimes gets ridiculous, and there were some downhills that you would go, and I would ask myself, like, how didn't I break my leg going down this cliff? Because it's so steep, and I would go down, and then on the way back, say you go back up, and I was like, holy, did I actually go down this way? There's no way. So I had to like walk around, and oh yeah, it's fun, but it is hard, and I guess that's what I trained for here in BC. I would frequently go off trail, do something that is completely ridiculous. Like it would take me 45 minutes to cover 1 kilometer.
Wow.
That's how ridiculous.
That's me on a flat surface.
Oh, no way.
Now, you gave a lot of credit to your crew member, Jody Eisner, for helping you with orienteering, which is obviously a key element in finding the books. But we're wondering how you met Jody, because he lives on the opposite side of the country. And we know he's a race director of Capes 100, which is a race that's now on our radar. So how did you meet him?
Right. Oh, it's on you should go, because I'm going to be at Capes 100. Maybe I'll meet you there then.
Okay, well, we'll check it out.
Well, it's sold out, so you have to make a plug to get us in.
I see. Right, it is sold out. So Jody and I met at the Backyard Satellite Championship in 2022. we were on Team Canada,
Mm.
running together in Summerland, BC. That's where it was. And I don't know, we just hit it off there, and we made friends. And I knew about him because Jody Eisner is actually a phenomenal runner, and he's one of the Canadian legends because he became the first fun runner, Barkley fun runner, first Canadian Barkley fun runner.
Nice.
He was before Gary.
Wow.
So he was the first one to complete 3 loops.
Yep.
Nice.
And so he's been at Barkley since 2014, either as a runner or a crew member. He's a huge fan of Barkley and overall the sport in general. He's doing incredible things in Nova Scotia. His races always get sold out, and he's putting on incredible events. He has backyard there too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's got multiple races, including orienteering races. So anyway, as we were running, and I kind of jokingly mentioned, "Hey, Jody, if I run 100 hours in backyard, would you tell me how to get to Barkley?" And we kind of jokingly, we joked like, "Yeah, of course, because no one is going to run 100 hours, right?" So anyway, so at Nationals, we ran 67. So I was like, whatever. But yeah, eventually we chatted a lot about it, and he definitely helped me with orienteering. He's one of the probably greatest orienteers in Barkley history, in my opinion. Yeah, every time he's on the course, he knows like literally everything. He feels comfortable with the map, compass, where he is. And his first year that he didn't even follow veterans. He did it on his own. And he did 3 loops. Yeah. So he's pretty knowledgeable, and he helped me because I didn't really know much about orienteering. So he directed me in the right way. He's like, "Okay, you need to read this, you need to sign up for this," and he would send me to the bush, and he would always harass me. "Have you done orienteering? Have you done orienteering? Have you done anything orienteering?" Every week. And he said, he made a good point. He said, "We know that you can climb mountains, but can you orienteer?" Like that's the thing about Barkley, because first 4 loops, okay, you can tag behind veterans. Well, what about 5th loop, right? You got to be on your own, so you can't rely on anyone but yourself. So he definitely mentored me with the navigational part. I'm really appreciative for everything he did for me. And when he came over as a crew, and his wife, Corinne, she was actually crewing Damien Hole. So she was there too, but she was also supportive there, him and her. And so having them there, like they're just like my kind of parents, or I call them siblings, brother and sister, because they're not that old. So they can be my parents.
Love it.
So back to Barkley, obviously you have to try to find these books in the forest. How long was the longest time that it took you to find one book? And that must have frustrated you. Yeah.
So the first loop, it was really good that we were moving all together. I guess we kind of formed 2 blocks. The first 18, 20 runners were somewhat together. And once we knew we're in the right spot, we would kind of fan out and start looking for whatever we need to look for. And it would be somewhat quick. But there was one book that we couldn't find for, I don't know, like 7 minutes or so, maybe even 10. And there were like 15 of us looking for it. And the thing is that it was in the cavity of the tree, but it wasn't just like, you can see the cavity, but if you look into it, there's nothing. The book is inside. You would have to kind of, put your hand inside the tree and pull it out. So that's what kind of threw us out, and we couldn't find it. And eventually someone, I think Greg Hamilton, the finisher from New Zealand, he found it. But yeah, first loop, like once we knew we were in the approximately right location, after first loop, we figured out, we knew which tree exactly it is in, or which rock it is under. So by loop 5, as long as you were in the right spot, in general, I knew where it was. But if you didn't know, that's the problem. Because sometimes it all looks the same. Once you hit the bottom, like this creek, you're expecting the creek, but there's 3-4 creeks. Which one? Which way? Or if you're on top, might be some rock, but there's like multiple rocks. And anyways, yeah, it's a fun of Barkley.
I'm wondering, please tell me you kept the pages, and what are you going to do with them? Because you need to honor these pages.
I did keep the pages. Yeah, they're still there on the shelf. So I'm thinking about framing them,
Yes.
in the frame. I did keep all of them, and it's pretty cool that you get to keep them, for sure. Yeah, some of those books are, hilarious. And, he's always mocking the runners. The book names or titles are often something like "Give up, stop running, don't run, or you'll die." I remember so when Gary almost finished Barkley, so he missed it by 6 seconds. The year after, Laz put the book out there with the name 6 Seconds, mocking Gary. Like, can you believe it?
What a sense of humor.
I know, right?
What a sense of humor. Now, do you recall how far ahead you were when you finished loop 4, and how did you decide which direction you were going to go out on 5?
So loop 4, so we finished together with John.
Okay.
We lost Damien because it was darkness, and at some point, we were both sleep deprived, and John would take naps here and there. And first there were 3 of us, but by the end, like, I turned around and I couldn't see Damien. His light was gone and he was gone, and we would yell, we wouldn't hear him. He just got lost. And I don't know what happened to him because he was sleep deprived as well. So anyways, so John and I finished together, and before we finished, I chatted with him which direction were we gonna go, and he said, I said that I needed to look after my feet, need to change socks, and I gotta do some footwork. And he said that he wants to nap, so he would nap while I'm sleeping. I'm doing my feet, and he asked me what direction you want to choose. He asked me. I said, I'll take clockwise, because usually it's a preferred direction. Like, physically, it's the same challenge.
Right.
You end up climbing, doing the same. But navigationally, the clockwise is deemed as an kind of easier part, because I think you get the hardest navigational parts at the end. And for the clockwise, it would be in the daytime. So the first couple of books would be in darkness, but you still can get lost at the beginning, but it's considered to be a bit easier than counterclockwise. And John actually was okay with it, and he actually wanted to do the counterclockwise, because both times that he finished Barkley before that, he did clockwise. So he said, I want a new challenge. I want to do counterclockwise. So we didn't have to fight or anything. So,
too tired to fight.
yeah, which is great, and I appreciate John for that again, because for him it might even won't make a difference, which way he goes. And he just kindly offered to say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to fight. Sure, go for it. And very similar happened with Jared and Jasmin, because Jared asked Jasmin which direction you want to go, and she also preferred clockwise too, right? And now thinking about it, would she finish if she did counterclockwise? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
So it worked out well, and that's another reason I really love Barkley. Like, the caliber of these elite runners, like John and Jared, they're just really nice humans too. They're not just impressive runners; they're impressive humans, and they're there. At the end of the day, we're not there competing against each other. We're competing against the Barkley course, and they love to see more finishers at the end.
Right.
In one of the Instagram posts, John Kelly said, if you're on top of the mountain and someone is climbing it as well, you don't push them off. You actually pull them up, and then when you slip, they're gonna catch you. So, it kind of speaks of him as a human being, a person. So yeah, really happy to meet and share so much trail time or off trail time with them, and pick up their brain on not only how to race, but how to act, as a great human being in the class act.
Yeah, I love that.
So on the last loop, when you both went the opposite direction, did you meet at the top of the mountain somewhere and pass each other?
Yeah. The section where we meet is somewhat halfway through, right? Because he left, I think, a few minutes after me. And that halfway through point is kind of blurry for me navigation-wise. Was still, because it's a tricky section there. It's a mountain. You're not even allowed to be even on the trails. So you can't even see the trails there. So when I ran into them, I was so happy because I knew that I was on the right track. Because there I would have to make sure I'm kind of trying to recall the landmarks that I have to be at and put it on the map just to make sure I'm in the right spot. And then I run into John. I'm like, oh, yes, I'm in the right spot because there's no way John is going to be in the wrong one. And then a couple minutes after, I ran into Greg. And a couple minutes after was Jared. So 3 of them were together. So technically, it's not prohibited by rules,
right?
But they could work together if they wanted. Just because it never happened before that there's so many finishers, so many runners in Loop 5. So there's no rule that says that you cannot work together in Loop 5. But I think they chose not to work together, just kind of in the spirit of Barkley, where 5th loop you're supposed to be alone, right? Yeah, it was really nice to run to. I actually thought that they were John was somewhat ahead of me on the loop. I thought that he would finish before me, or Greg or Jared. I thought in my head that they were a little bit ahead of me, but I guess I was wrong because I did the biggest climbs at the beginning, and for them it was at the end.
Right.
Yeah, and at the end I still thought that I would finish and they would be sitting there waiting for me already. And then when I see the camp, I'm like, oh, nobody's around. So
fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Tell us, now that you saw Jasmin come in, the first woman to finish Barkley, what was, to see this history in the making, what were you thinking about at that moment?
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm telling you, it was so electric that it's hard to describe. People were crying, like literally everyone was crying, on the men, women. As they were watching this, everyone was crying as Jasmin just fell on that gate, fell down. People just could not believe it. It's history in making. 60 hours of running comes down to a few seconds where you basically do impossible, because she ran the last stretch, which is like 1/3 of the loop, 45 minutes faster than I did.
Whoa.
Wow, that's determination.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How?
Yeah. So as I was holding myself there, she was pushing so hard. She literally left absolutely every single drop of energy and everything left in her there. And 99 seconds to cut off. And like Laz said, that he was going to have a heart attack. Like he just couldn't believe what was happening, and people were just shouting and yelling. And it's interesting because even when I finished, everyone thought that she would finish too. And everyone thought that we're going to have a lot of finishers this year. And we had like 5 minutes and we're kind of looking around. It's like, well, it's coming really close and no one could see the runner.
Right.
And everyone's like, she's going to finish. She's going to finish. And then John Kelly's son, he was down the road. He saw a runner. He saw her. And it was 3 minutes. And it's hard to see on the video, but that last stretch going to the gate in clockwise is uphill. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Definitely it's not climbing the mountain in Frozen Head State Park, but after so many hours on feet, the last thing you want to do is run that uphill, And Jasmin, she was like flying, like her arms like
Yep.
And literally entire camp is just cheering and yelling. Like we probably went deaf. We all lost our voices there. She just collapses there, and we're just all in awe. Like she just proved Laz wrong.
Yeah.
She proved that a female can finish Barkley. And just to tell you about Jasmin, she was always sticking around with us, with boys, and we would work fairly hard. And she would be always around, like most of the time. And at some point she was actually ahead of us, so that's how crazy she is. She's so strong physically and mentally, and she's just so soft spoken. You would never expect that brutality and that toughness from this woman. Like when you talk to her, she's like so quiet and the UK accent, and it's like so cute. And all of a sudden she's like charging this mountain. Yeah, she's incredible. I'm really proud of her. I think she deserves all this attention. And she she definitely wrote history there, and she's just such an example for, young girls, just like she mentioned multiple times about it, and all the kids, not necessarily girls. She's like my inspiration,
Yeah.
and she proved that impossible is actually just an opinion. You can really do hard things, no matter if you're female or male. And she's the only finisher now, or first female finisher of Barkley. So who knows? I would love to see more female finishers in the future, and she definitely set a great example.
Once there's one, there's always more to follow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the works.
It's the hardest is the first.
It's just like the guy who was the first sub 4 minute mile.
That's right.
And the next year, boom, 3 more.
Yeah, that's true.
We actually have a couple questions from our listeners.
Yeah.
So Jason C wants to know, did you witness any acts of kindness out on the trail? And I'll expand that to say, or in the camp, like with your crew or other crews.
Yeah. The biggest act of kindness was Jared offering Jasmin to pick the direction, because she was literally just broken. She didn't even look like she would go for the 5th loop. And Jared was already ready to go. So next choice is clockwise. And he's ready to roll, but Jasmin is not. And he's still being considerate, thinking of her, wanting her to succeed. He's asking her, what do you want to do? And she says she wants to do clockwise. So he's waiting, because you can't just leave counterclockwise. You have to touch the gate and follow the direction that's the next one.
Right.
So he's waiting for Jasmin to get ready. So he's wasting his time just to make sure that she gets the direction she wants. And I feel like that was big. This is such a gentleman move that, we all have to learn from Jared. He's a true class act, 4 times finisher, absolutely crazy guy. Like you talk to him, so polite, so quiet, so soft spoken, but a beast, such a beast. Like 12 years between the first and last Barkley finishes, and he also first time he finished it was his first year as well.
Oh wow!
So one of those who finished on his first try. So absolute class act. It was really cool to get to know him and see him in action, because I always see those people on, on YouTube or in pictures, read about them in articles, and all of a sudden they're right in front of you, and you get to learn from them and observe them and get their experience. It's priceless.
Absolutely. Andrea O wants to know about your personal essay. Did you write one to gain entry into the race, and what was the gist of it?
I did write the essay. I guess you have to. I mean, there's a couple ways to get into Barkley without writing an essay. You would have to win the Big Dog's Backyard Ultra. So Harvey got into Barkley directly.
Right.
Also, there's another race called Barkley Falls Classic. So it is also in Frozen Head State Park, but it's on trails all the time. So if you win that race, you also get directly to Barkley. For all other people, you have to write an essay, and you have to explain why you deserve to run Barkley. And I tried to. First year was a bit different as I applied. The second year, so it went off after the backyard. I had a little chat with Laz. Really nice chat, and where he said, like, you're so strong and this and that. And so my second essay was kind of based on this conversation where I wanted to prove him that I could do better, that there's no way I'll DNF again, something like that. Not being cocky or anything, just kind of explaining my reasoning why I think so. And I guess it worked out. Yeah.
Love it. I'm sure he appreciated that too, right? He's looking for things that stand out in those essays.
It's hard to say, because he's getting like thousands and thousands essays every time people apply. So there's rumors that he doesn't even read them. But again, it's just rumors. Maybe he does, and he says he does. So I want to believe him. But it's really hard to read so many essays, right? And decide. And he always says it's always hard to choose 40 people out of thousands, because there's so many talented runners applying, from all over the world. So he feels bad cutting them off.
Sure, of course. Wow.
The elevation gain for Barkley is like climbing Everest twice. Have you ever considered now actually climbing Everest once?
It's a different type of fun. I guess it's a bit. You gotta be an alpinist, right? And it's not about running anymore.
No, that's just a journey or adventure.
And the more I read about it, it's just so commercialized now, and all those lines I see on Everest, and it costs so much money, and I don't like how it's getting all about money. And I would love to. It would be a great experience with good training, of course, leading up to it, but not anytime soon.
In your retirement.
Maybe. Yeah.
And now we've also found out that you're going to be going into some Canadian races to see more of Canada, I guess.
Yeah, which is awesome. That's great.
Yeah, I think we have amazing races here, great trails, great views, and our race directors are doing an amazing job. And very often Canada remains in the shade of states, and people wouldn't even think coming to Canada, as an ultra running destination, which I think is wrong, because what we have here, no one else in the world has it. And I think every province is unique with the type of trail it has. So I do want to travel across Canada, check out the local races. I'll be in Nova Scotia, I'll be in Manitoba and Quebec this year, and do these local races, hang out with local communities, crowds, and hopefully bring some awareness to our races.
Yes.
I think many Americans, even if we're not Europeans, to say Americans, coming up to Canada and giving a shot to our races, it would be amazing, to get more crowd from states experiencing races, right?
And their dollar goes so much further up here. They don't know what they're missing.
That's right.
It's racing at discount prices.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks so much, Ihor. You have put Canadian ultra runners on the map, of you along with Elsa McDonald and
Marianne Hogan
and Amanda Nelson and Galen Reynolds. It keeps going on and on. So thank you so much. We're no longer dark horses when Canadians run to the line. We're no longer dark horses.
Watch out for those Canucks. I tell you.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nolan and Jordy. Yeah, I really appreciate you chatting with me again. Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Well, if you remember, we like to end our podcast with some rapid fire questions, and we're not going to repeat the ones from last time, so we wrote them down to make sure we don't repeat.
Let's do it.
Okay. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Peanut butter, Reese's peanut butter.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That is good.
That is a good one. What's a TV show that you're embarrassed to say you watch?
Oh my gosh.
Maybe reality.
Okay. My girlfriend's here. She's helping me.
Okay.
It's a reality TV show called Love is Blind.
Yeah, we watched that one too.
I was forced to watch it. Well, I wasn't forced. I actually ended up truly liking it, which is weird, right? But it is embarrassing to an extent.
Love it.
Yeah, we love it.
Would you rather be a professional writer, painter, or musician?
Musician. I actually do play guitar.
Oh, you do?
Good. Nice.
Yeah, I went to school for it.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah. Spent 2 years actually in musical school back in Ukraine.
Oh.
Actually. Yeah.
What kind of music do you like to play?
I play classic all the time. So unfortunately, you're kind of losing it as you're not using it. I'm not really using it very often. I still, muscle memory is still there. So if I have guitar, I can still recall playing something, but unfortunately I stopped playing. So, but I miss it a bit.
Now, when you are running downhill and you stub that toe, what's the go-to curse word? Is it in Ukrainian or is it in English? It
actually is in Ukrainian. Well, let me put it this way. So Ukrainian language does not have curse words.
Okay.
All the words that Ukrainians use are borrowed from Russian language.
Okay.
So, but technically it's kind of, you're using Ukrainian, Russian borrowed words.
Sure.
So when I do hit my toe,
what is
I
it?
use that curse word. I don't use English. Yeah.
And what's the word?
No, I'm not going to say.
Yeah,
it's too bad. No. Thanks. I'm not gonna say because I know someone, some Russian Ukrainian speaker will be listening, and
I'm sure they know what it is.
it's the equivalent of F word. So
Okay. I'm sure it has more gusto to it as well. That's awesome. All right, Norm.
Now, the last time I asked you what superpower you would like to have, you said teleport. So now pick another superpower you would like to have.
okay, the second one. So it's funny because sometimes we play that game with my girlfriend. That we always come together with a teleport, but the second one would be invisibility, being invisible in the right moment, in the right place.
That's awesome.
That is a popular one.
Yeah.
Well, again, Ihor, thank you so much for your time and all the best to you in the future. We're so excited and happy for you, and we might just see you at the Capes. Maybe I'll reach out to Jody. We can get our names on the wait list.
There you go. Yeah, thank you so much, Norm, Jody, again. Yeah, always pleasure chatting with you. And I do hope I'll see you at Capes. And if not, at some point I will end up in Ontario too. I would love to do one of the races in Ontario.
Awesome.
Haven't raced there yet, so definitely be there at some point. And our community is pretty small, especially in Canada. So at some point we will run into each other.
We sure will. Well, thanks again, Ihor.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
And that was Ihor Verys, fresh off his win at the Barkley Marathons. Final thoughts.
Well, talk about a true gentleman. He wouldn't even swear in another language.
Yeah.
He's definitely come a long way in a very short period of time, and I can't wait to see what else he achieves.
There's so many races that he could take on and do well, like Badwater, Javelina, Tour de Gent, Hard Rock. There are ultra runners out there that can excel on flats, but can't do mountains, and vice versa. He can do both.
What can't he do? How's that?
You got it.
What can't he do?
Well, I don't know. I got to think of something.
Oh, man. What can't he do? That is the question.
Yeah. There's ultra runners who prefer flats. There's ones who prefer mountains. This guy can do both.
Right. That is huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And wow, there you go. Puts Canadian runners back on the map. I don't know.
We never left the map. We never left the map. It's becoming more prominent now.
Yeah. There you go.
Canadians are.
We're here to fight.
We're here to stay.
No, we're here to race. And yeah, he said it himself. Come on, guys, come to Canada. We got a lot to offer.
We sure do.
Yeah.
We sure do. And we have a lot to offer coast to coast because from one province to the next, it's very different.
Very different.
Just like the U.S. East Coast, East Coast, West Coast, it's very different. The trails are not the same from one to the next. So come and check us out.
Yeah.
Before you go today, we'd just like to remind you that we are on Patreon, and we would really appreciate your support if you're able to buy a gel every month or
the cost of a gel per month. But if you don't want to go that route, you can support us by liking and sharing this podcast, subscribing to our YouTube channel. There's all kinds of ways, or we will see you at one of our events. Gotta Run Racing.
That's right. Lost Treasure Trail Race is just over a month away, so sign up now. We'd love to see you in person.
And we will be at Sulphur Springs cheering on everyone there to get the Western States qualifying. Come for a chat. Come say hello.
Absolutely. We'd love to meet you.
Until next time.
Cheers.
Bye.